Sikhism is a global faith built on the principle of universal human equality. To see how radical that idea actually is, we have to look at the world where it started. The Indian subcontinent in the 15th century was locked into a rigid caste system, with society sharply divided along sectarian lines and strict religious rituals. In 1469, a boy named Nanak was born into this highly stratified environment. He grew up to be an ordinary accountant in a rural village, someone expected to conform to the rules of his station. But at age 30, Nanak went to bathe in the Vane River and vanished. For 3 days, his community assumed he had drowned. When he emerged, his first words were a rejection of the sectarian labels of his time. He spoke of Ik Onkar, a single, universal, formless energy. He argued that if the divine has no physical form and exists everywhere, it cannot be owned by one specific temple or bloodline. By removing form from God, he effectively removed the theological basis for human hierarchy. Spiritual truth couldn't be found within the existing dogmas of his village. So Nanak abandoned his job as an accountant, left his old life behind, and decided to physically walk the earth to seek universal truth. Over the next 2 decades, Nanak embarked on a series of overland treks known as udasis. Leaving his family behind, he and a small group of companions traveled almost entirely on foot. His first route took him eastward, deep into Bengal and Assam, arguing that the divine is found through internal love, not external magic. He then turned south, crossing the peninsula and sailing into Sri Lanka, spreading his message across vast linguistic barriers. To do this, he navigated massive trade hubs, delivering his philosophy to the diverse melting pot of merchants and travelers moving through the south. For his third trek, Nanak pushed straight up north into the freezing altitudes of the Himalayas and the Tibetan Plateau to confront groups of extreme ascetics, like the Nath yogis. At places like Achal Sahib, these yogis argued that spiritual purity required escaping society. Nanak countered them directly. He argued that true spirituality requires living purely while remaining fully engaged within the messy, everyday world. By walking through jungles, across barren deserts, and freezing blizzards, Nanak proved that his concept of a formless God could resonate across drastically different languages, topographies, and belief systems. His fourth journey took him out of the subcontinent entirely. He walked west, crossing the Middle East to reach the Arabian Peninsula. His goal was to engage in direct interfaith dialogue at the religious center of the Islamic world, the Kaaba in Mecca. As Nanak's journeys grew more epic, the historical record begins to blur. Later biographical texts, known as Janam Sakhis, added supernatural embellishments to his timeline to compete with local legends of miracle-working Sufi saints. Today, historians still debate the specific physical evidence of this Western route, analyzing contested artifacts like the 16th century Baghdad stone. But even when you strip away the supernatural myths, the historical record remains. An ordinary man crossed the medieval world on foot to build interfaith bridges across thousands of miles of hostile terrain. After decades on the road, Nanak shifted his approach. He returned to the life of a householder and settled in Kartarpur, creating a permanent physical space for his followers. Here, he institutionalized his philosophy of equality by creating the Langar. This was a community kitchen where everyone, regardless of caste, gender, or faith, had to sit on the floor and eat exactly the same meal together. He also secured his philosophical legacy by writing 974 hymns. He married complex theology to specific musical ragas, ensuring his teachings could be sung and remembered by anyone. In 1539, as he neared death, Nanak made one final, radical decision. He passed the title of Guru to his devoted disciple, who became known as Guru Angad. By deliberately bypassing his own sons for this succession, he proved his commitment to spiritual merit and devotion over the traditional rules of bloodline. Guru Nanak mapped the medieval world with his own footsteps to dismantle its boundaries. He walked thousands of miles to prove that the divine is never confined to a specific temple, mosque, or caste. It is a formless truth living equally